Most people are afraid of the dark. And while this is something that we expect from our children, adults hold on to that fear just as tightly. We simply don't talk about it anymore. But it's there, lurking in the back of our minds. Science calls it nyctophobia. It's the fear of the dark. And since the dawn of humanity, our ancestors have stared into the blackness of caves, tunnels, and basements with a feeling of rot and panic in our stomachs. H.P. Lovecraft, the patriarch of the horror genre, published an essay in 1927 entitled Supernatural Horror in Literature, and it opens with this profoundly simple statement. The oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear, and the oldest and strongest kind of fear is fear of the unknown. People fear what they don't know, the what if, and the things they can't see. We humans are afraid of the dark. We're afraid that our frailness and weakness might become laid bare in the presence of whatever it is that lurks in the shadows. We're afraid of opening up places that should remain closed. We fear what we can't see, and sometimes for good reason. I'm Aaron Mahnke, and this is Lore. Nothing can be as isolating or confining as the woods. They seem to cut us off from the rest of the world, leaving us alone, balanced on the edge of being lost. Even in these thoroughly modern times, the woods seem to exist as a reminder that so much of the world is outside of our control. Sure, we could stay on the path, but those narrow routes between the trees only give us the illusion of control, like a trail of breadcrumbs. They're fragile and fleeting, and somewhere in the back of our minds, we understand that if we were to leave the trail, we would be stepping into the unknown. The woods hide things from us. For centuries, criminals have used the dark cloak of the forest to conceal everything from bootlegging and poaching to drug use and murder. They hide wildlife from us and instill just enough doubt and mystery that we end up believing that anything could be living out there. Anything. Some areas, though, are darker than others. In some places, the woods are more than just a gathering of trees and undergrowth. There are locations in our world that are consistently avoided, plagued by rumor, and dense with fear. To step into one of these places is to abandon all safety, all reason, and all hope. Between the three Massachusetts towns of Abington, Rehoboth, and Freetown exists a triangular slice of land that has become home to hundreds of reports of unexplainable phenomenon. It's known as the Bridgewater Triangle, though some call it the Black Triangle or the Devil's Triangle. Now, it might not be swallowing up fighter jets or colonial-era ships like the Bermuda Triangle to the south, but its history is just as storied and mysterious. One of the areas inside the triangle is the Hockomock Swamp. It's a 17,000-acre wetland near Bridgewater, Massachusetts. Now, in the 1600s, it was inhabited by the Wampanoag tribe of Native Americans, and the fort that they built inside it became a strategic location for them during the King Philip's War of 1674. One legend details how, during this time of upheaval and invasion by the colonials, a powerful artifact was lost in the swamp. I can't find much beyond a small Wikipedia entry, but the story basically goes like this. There was an object known as the wampum belt, and during the war, it was lost. And as a result, the swamp has become home to restless spirits. Ever since, the swamp has been the source of nearly an endless supply of unexplainable sightings. One of the most dramatic and best documented of those was made by a local police officer, Sergeant Thomas Downey. According to him, on a summer night in 1971, he was driving toward the town of Easton, near a place known as Bird Hill, that sits on the edge of the swamp. Now, as he approached the hill, he saw an enormous creature, a winged creature. He claims it was over 6 feet tall, and that it had a wingspan of nearly 12 feet. I want to point out he saw this near Bird Hill, and I have to wonder what's going on there. After reporting the sighting to the Easton police, he quickly earned the nickname, the Birdman. Now, I don't know about you, but it seems odd that a police officer would risk his reputation among his peers on a fake story just to make something up. Clearly, he saw something that night. Just what that thing was, of course, is still open to debate. Now, decades earlier in 1939, the Civilian Conservation Corps were working on the edge of the swamp near King Philip Street. While there, workers claimed to have seen a huge snake, as big around and as black, they say, as a stovepipe. That's big, if you've never seen a stovepipe. According to the report, the snake coiled up for a moment, raised its enormous head, and then vanished into the swamp. And, of course, what wooded area would be complete without Bigfoot sightings? Although tall, hairy creatures have been sighted dozens of times over the years in various parts of the triangle, the most common appearances have been near the swamp. In 1983, John Baker, a local fur trapper, had one such experience. He was on his canoe in the swamp when he heard a splash. He turned to see, and I quote, "a hairy beast slog into the river and pass within a few yards of his boat." Before that, in 1978, a local man named Joe DeAndrade was standing on the shore of a pond called Clay Banks. He claims that he turned and saw what he described as, and again I quote, "a creature that was all brown and hairy, like an apish man thing." Oddly enough, I went to high school with a guy who fits that description. But there's been more than just weird animal sightings in the swamp. As far back as the late 19th century, locals have reported seeing unusual lights. One report was made by 2 undertakers who were traveling past the swamp on Halloween night in 1908. They claimed to have seen a light that hovered in the sky for almost an hour. Now, whether the reports of creatures and lights are true or not, it might be worth mentioning that the word Hockomock itself literally means the place where the spirits dwell. Another hot spot in the southeastern corner of the triangle is the Freetown State Forest. If all the stories are to be believed, it's the quintessential haunted forest. Deep inside the park is a cliff known as the Ossinet Ledge that looks over an old stone quarry. There have been reports of hauntings near the ledge, of visions, and ghostly figures. Some stories tell of a woman in white who lingers near the precipice. Others claim to have heard voices while visiting there. The most common report is of mysterious lights, though, and some researchers think they know exactly where the lights come from. They're the tools of a creature known as the Pukwudgie. I know, right? In ancient Wampanoag folklore, bear with me, the Pukwudgie is a small forest-dwelling creature, something like a troll or a goblin. And it lives in the wooded areas around places like the swamp. Now, aside from having one of the most entertaining names in the world to say out loud, they're said to be small, hairy creatures, human-like, 3 feet tall, who hide in the woods and cause trouble for those who discover them. What kind of trouble? Well, the folklore tells of how the Pukwudgies used lights to lure travelers into the woods, where they would then kill them. These lights, according to legend, are known as the Taipei-Wankas, the Native American version of our English will-o-wisp, or ghost lights. The Pukwudgies used the lights as bait to lure people to their death, rather than attacking hikers outright. Apparently, these creatures prefer to let the land itself kill their victims. Coincidentally, one of the most common experiences reported by visitors to the ledge is an overwhelming urge to jump. Normal, healthy people have felt nearly suicidal standing atop the ledge. Many of them claimed that on approaching the edge of the cliff, they felt an almost uncontrollable desire to jump into the dark, rocky waters below.